you could call comics and Ninja Turtles my gateway drug. Whatever gets you into art, whatever gets you into creating, if you are so inclined to do that sort of thing, I mean, like, everyone has something that set them on that path. There's nothing really stopping you. If you got like a pen and pencil and paper, there you go. Just start it. Even if it's not good, just do it. You have to just do it, and eventually you get to a point you can redo it later if you want to do it, but start somewhere. What I have here is my comic, Welcome to Hereafter, which is a comic I've been doing for about 6 or 7 years online, about what happens after God loses his job in a corporate takeover, and then basically has to figure out what he's going to do with his retirement. And then you have like his son, who's been kind of living with him for 2,000 years. He comes home, it's like, maybe you should move out now, and then kind of things spiral from there. And it's like a city full of other gods and deities and figures from like all sorts of different religions and mythology. Basically, like, they're all real. They all live together, and their sort of society has evolved along the same kind of like as ours has, like the same kind of a rate. Yeah, it just kind of goes from there. Just kind of this world that they're all living in and trying to live in together. I can really take it back to like Ninja Turtles cartoon. I just became obsessed with. Even particularly just like the opening sequence or something with the theme song and everything. I'm just getting like super pumped up, and then I found a Ninja Turtles like comic books, and I just became obsessed with those, followed them like obsessively, and then drawing my own stuff that's basically just sort of like, well, was at first just drawing like Ninja Turtles, and then drawing like, here are my own original characters who happen to be humanoid turtles. You know what I mean? Just kind of doing the little kid kind of like rip off things, and then eventually like, oh, maybe I should do something completely my own, and it kind of builds from there. I've gotten into comics when I was pretty young. I don't know how comics ended up in my hands, but I had like Spider-Man and Ninja Turtles and stuff like that I was just obsessed with, and still am, to be honest. And I found myself basically not being the best student in school because all I was doing was drawing on every piece of like blank paper I could find, like every day, all day, every day. So it was pretty unavoidable. I think at that point I could not control it. So it's one of those things. I did like a few little comics. I went to film school in Thunder Bay at Confederation College, and they had like little like one-panel comics about like Jesus going back to Earth, and just sort of like being like, what is happening here? Like getting into these situations and stuff. And I'm like, okay, a little bit closer. And eventually, in college, I kind of a few years later, when I was finishing up, I kind of like landed on a better idea, and then eventually it was just like, kind of developed in my head long enough. I'm like, well, I should just do this at some point. Why am I just thinking about this and not actually doing it in some way? So started putting comics on the internet, and made a website eventually, and sort of like, okay, I'm going to update like weekly or bi-weekly, like every twice a week if possible. And that was the end of 2010, I think, or like the beginning of 2011. So I haven't stopped. This is my first year actually going to shows, conventions and stuff outside of Thunder Bay. So I'm here now. I was in Aurelia with my friends Merck and Kyle Lees. They're comic creators too that just launched some books themselves. So yeah, now we're kind of like getting to the point where we're like, oh, we're traveling around a little bit more. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to do. I'd like to sort of travel around more and meet people and sort of show the comic around and try to see if there's interest and keep building on that. There's more people making stuff, doing stuff into this stuff than you think. In Thunder Bay, for example, there's a lot of people in Thunder Bay making comics, actually. I didn't know, which I found out. We do a podcast, a comic book podcast, 3 of us, called Zero Issues. And the 3 of us are comic creators. That's the entire hook. Is like, we're 3 comic creators from Thunder Bay. And it's just like, before I started doing comics and sort of put the feelers out and like, hey, who's doing stuff like this? I had no idea anybody was making comics in Thunder Bay. And there's like a bunch. I don't even know. There's more than that even. And it's like, wow, okay. So like anywhere you are, like I guarantee you there's people doing stuff that maybe you're not aware of. And that's the great thing about like the internet and communication now is like you can find them. And you can like, connect, and you can sort of like help each other out, and you can become friends and build a community on that sort of thing. So yeah, anywhere. Like people making comics in Dryden, I'm sure of it. People making comics like Kenora, I'm sure of it. Like they're there for sure. Anywhere, everywhere.